Bam, good timing, man.
Justin, look at
Perfect. Beat the counter by a second. Or
that. How are you all doing?
yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good, mate. Pretty good.
I'd like to say I'm
Yeah.
refreshed after a day off, but they slaved me hard here, mate. It's just not much doing apart from work.
Oh, hold on, you're the boss.
Yeah. Well, she who must be obeyed.
Okay. Well, we've had a bit of a choppy day, a bit of a choppy few days with you gone, mate. I think we've had a decent few days when it comes down to the show, but actually trading wise, it's been a little bit up and down, more
Yeah,
down than up.
I did my analysis yesterday morning and then didn't see another chart until about an hour ago. Well, that's
Right.
not true. I did my analysis this morning as well. And we ended the trade this morning. And actually, we better have a look at the pound, shall we? Should we do that?
Do what? Sorry, mate.
I'll have a look at the pound, and then I've got some news for those who are in my group. Actually, I'll tell them now. If you're in my group, I have taken early profit on CAD yen at 10 pips plus 10, and I've taken half off the table and moved my stops 10 pips from entry. Okay. And I'll give you the reason for that when. Good question. I haven't got another show this week. I'll try and get it out in either this or the US show. Can't give too much away. 129.32, and let me get rid of the EA. I think we're still there. So these levels on your screen, guys, are actual at the moment, unless in the next 3 minutes we get a new high or a new high on this bar here. So the pound breakout trade for today, the OCO is buying at I'll give you the sell first. 1.2932 is the sell order. Stop loss 1.2941. TP1 is at 1.2928. Pretty tight, only 4 pips. And TP2 is at 1.2914. That shouldn't change in the next 2 minutes or minute and a half, whatever it is. The buy order is at 1 point currently, unless we've got a new high in this next minute or so, is 1.2951. Stop loss is 1.2940. TP1 is at 1.2956, which is 5 pips. So it's a pretty tight range this morning. And TP2 is at 1.2973. I best put this buy in the market, or get ready to put this buy in the market, because we may not get too much time here. So, 0.25%, isn't it?
0.25%, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, mate. You're going to run these one more time. I'm going to put them in.
Yep. Buys at 1.2951 at the moment, unless in the next minute that changes, and it may. Stop loss 1.2940.
Yep. It's 1.2940. Yeah.
Yep. TP1 1.2956.
Yep.
She's tight as the proverbial fishes this morning. And TP2 is at 1.2973.
Yep.
Sell is at 1.2932.
Yep.
What was I doing then? Oh, okay. Putting the stop loss in. Stop loss 1.2941.
1.2941. Was the buy on the pound 1.2951?
Yes.
Okay, but this is a different one, is it? Okay.
This is a sell.
This is the sell. I thought your stop loss was in the same place as the buy order for the was in the same place as the buy. The stop loss
Nope.
and the sell. No, okay. Okay, so 1.2941, yeah.
Yep. Oh, I see what you mean. They're close, aren't they?
I thought they were the same. I thought you normally have them the same, but that's cool.
No, it depends on whether we're trading a single candle or the three candles.
Okay.
So the TP1 on the sell is 1.2928. And TP2 on the sell is 1.2914.
And our risk is 0.25%.
Yep. Righto. There's the buy. Now the sell. 1.2932. And 1.2941.
Good morning, Swee. How are you, buddy? APL. Hey, John. ISF.
Wow, look at that. She's pretty tight there.
Pretty tight.
You're going to have to be wide awake on this to take your TP1s. Remember, half off. You've got 4 pips to take off the sell, and you've got 5 pips to take off the buy. So you'll have to be wide awake for that. Okay, that is the pound breakout for this morning. If you're joining us for the first time, this is beta test mode. We are not trading this with any serious money at all until we've sorted out what's best for the we still haven't been triggered on that, have we? No. Until we figure out what's the best way to tackle it. So when you get triggered into this, if you get triggered into this short, you would cancel the long straight away. And as soon as you hit TP1, take half of the position off and move your stops, whatever you took at TP1. There you've now been triggered short. Okay, so you're looking for modify. It hasn't triggered me. Why is that? Okay, spreads, I guess, not in the market. Yeah, so if you take 4 pips of profit at TP1, then you move your stops 4 pips above entry and take half off the table. If you're going long, you've got a TP1 of 5 pips here today, and you would do exactly the same in reverse. So 5 pips, you take half off the table and move your stop loss 5 pips below entry, giving you a free trade. Right, mate, I thought I'd been triggered. I haven't. So we'll go to you.
Okay.
And when you're done, you're off to school.
I have got to do a little bit of chaperoning, yes, and then
Awesome.
I'll be back. Okay, so let's talk about the market, because the market's had a pretty good boost the last few days. The FTSE 100 in some respects has actually lagged behind a little bit, but you can see that this is now looking like a higher low down here. So FTSE looks pretty good for a grab to the monthly pivot. Is there a trade? Let's just double check. Ooh. It's a shame. I think this is going higher, but I think we're a bit late. We'd have had to trade this price action here. Yeah, that's likely to get to that monthly pivot now. Okay, no big deal. I mean, it's I think the market, as I say, the FTSE 100 has lagged behind, and when we compare this to the global equities, we see the S&P is it had a pretty good day yesterday, but it did start to draw down, as we can see on the hourly, just towards the end of the day, and it is picked up again now today. Let's put the pivots on. You can see that that this is today's price action. This is where today's price action started. So bit of a drawdown yesterday, but it did create a higher low, and we have continued to move to the upside. And it just seems across the board that that we are in a bit of risk on. We were talking about the CAD Swiss a few days ago. CAD Swiss hit those lows down there, and you know, this looks to me like a bit of a timing issue as much as anything else. looks like it's hit this this area, which is actually probably there. Came down, tested the lows again, and has now started to move fairly significantly to the upside after a bounce off the lows. Difficult trade to get into because it did create a higher high here, but the move back to the downside, it was a valid entry, but very, very difficult to see, and I didn't even spot this happening. And then it shot to the upside. So really a bit of a missed opportunity on the CAD Swiss. So you can see how the idea of a trade can be completely valid, but you may still miss your entry if you're not continuing to watch it, which unfortunately we weren't. But the CAD Swiss looks good, and if we are in kind of risk on mode, then something like the CAD Swiss is more than valid. And when I look at this on longer term timeframes as well, then what was I seeing here? No, I thought there was an inverted head and shoulders here. Ah, there is. Yeah, there is. So there's a little inverted head and shoulders here. And it looks like we're just, we continue to kind of like get to the neckline.
Okay, guys, take your TP1 on the pound and move your stops to 29.36. And I know where I wasn't triggered because I put the wrong entry.
Oh no!
The wrong entry. Anyway, we've still got an official order, mate. Doesn't matter what I do.
Okay, fantastic. We'll count that one in. Okay, so it looks like the neckline's up here. So it looks like it's got some room to travel. It does need to kind of like get through this monthly pivot, which has actually moved in some respects against it because it's the start of the new month now. But you can see there's an inverted head and shoulders down here, and it looks like we are carving out a low with the CAD Swiss. So still quite like the look of this one. But as I say, that monthly pivot is just trapping it in a little bit. And it might continue to cause it problems. But I suspect if we continue with the risk on kind of sentiment, then CAD Swiss would still be pretty relevant here. So let me just see what we have with XTI, isn't it? We got with oil. Oil, very similar to really what's been going on, just kind of expressing a bit of risk on over the course of the last couple of weeks. But it hasn't really gone anywhere. And is the correction done is the big question that I'm asking, mate. And I just don't think it is. I still think there's some downside in the markets, and I still think that we are probably risk off. I think we still got a bit of risk out there that needs to be cleared out before we can,
did anything come of that potential issue in the wherever it was? I don't know, was it the Gulf or somewhere?
Do you know what? I don't know. The story that I'm on top of at the minute is this stimulus package. And it seems that we've had a move to the upside because there's a little bit of a delay on whether Nancy Pelosi and who's the other fella? Not Pence. Is it Mnuchin? I think it's Mnuchin. Is it Mnuchin, or is he's a Fed dude, isn't he? But they're negotiating anyway. The Democrats and the Republicans are negotiating for this state aid package, and the market kind of heard that the potential for that negotiation to continue is I think they've got another day. So I think we find out by the end of today what's really going to happen, and the market seems quite happy with that. So because of that, because we've had a fairly positive, some fairly positive mood music, if you like, from the United States side, then it's enabled the global equities to continue higher. Now, as I say, that the FTSE has been a bit of a laggard, but if you look at the Dow, look at the Dow yesterday. This is yesterday's price action. It was down, 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 and then from the lows until right to the highs, it travelled near what we got almost 900 pips in one sweeping move, which is an amazing amount, really. From the lowest point to the highest point. That's obviously not where it would have ended up opening. I think it would have ended up opening here. So Yeah, it was up. It was up a couple of hundred pips at one point during the day from where it closed. Sorry, where the Dow ended up closing. It would have been this bar actually would have closed on. So near 400, which is an incredible amount. You know, if you think that's 2% higher, but from the lows to the highs, there was a 4% swing, and that just goes to show the benefit of trying to pick something up at the low and trying to trade it, from a lower point rather than from the close. Easier said than done, of course. So yeah, we've got a little bit of we've had a little bit of risk on for that very reason, mates, and that seems to be where we're at right now with this.
Yeah, I've noticed the Aussie's doing well, so that's normally a sign that we've risk on.
Yeah, but I wonder whether we might just hit a little bit of. I wonder whether we hit the brakes for a little while today. We've got this negotiation that needs to happen, and that's going to make making a decision a little bit trickier. I don't think we just continue to the upside necessarily. If we have a look at Forex Factory here, then we've had the manufacturing numbers from Japan came out better than expected, so a little bit of growth there. We've got holidays in the Far East as well, which is making trading a little bit tricky, to try and get a proper read. Retail sales year on year not very good from Switzerland. So what's that going to mean for the Swissy? Does that mean that it's another potential catalyst to kind of force them into doing something about the monetary stimulus or some sort of monetary policy that they haven't really taken on yet? So I wonder whether we might still see some movement from the Swissy in negatively, and we might still see some of these currencies. I mean we've I see that we've got a question about the dollar Swiss, the Aussie Swiss, and the Euro Yen. So let's have a look at those in a moment. But it would suggest that that Switzerland it may well be in the worst space that it's been. Yeah, there was a tech issue, you're right, John. There was a tech issue in Tokyo. So there's a tech issue in Tokyo. There has been a holiday in China, and I think Korea as well. Is that right? Am I right in saying that? Pretty sure that's the case. So there's a few things going on there, but what we're waiting for really is the ISM number later. This is what's going to give us a proper gauge of who's doing business out there, and how well is that business going. So the ISM number is really the ticket item of the week when it comes down to data. But the news of the week is about the stimulus package. Do we actually get a stimulus package from the US government? So we're kind of waiting on that, and that would suggest to me that we might just hit a bit of a range today and not have any really clean trends to trade with. So it's a bit of a wait until, and I hate to sort of say it because it's just it's probably a bit difficult for people, but I've got to say that we're probably going to have to wait for the second session of the day, so the US session of the day, to really understand what kind of market that we're going to be moving into, possibly for the next month. We've still got this election scenario going on, and you also have to wonder, when is that going to start taking precedent? Because all the things that I read, Donald Trump is, it's Bernie Sanders, I think from what the bookies are saying, has got a 78% chance of winning right now. So,
he didn't do himself any favors yesterday, I wouldn't have thought.
A couple of that, what with that to and fro in that they had with you talk about the debate.
Well, I mean, you would have expected exactly what he delivered, apart from what the press have grabbed hold of, which is that he refused to denounce white supremacy.
Who's that, Trump?
That's the headline, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was asleep at that stage.
Yeah.
I watched the first 45 minutes and went to sleep.
Yeah. Well,
so I really don't know how that was delivered. I just saw a little news clip.
I've seen snippets. I haven't really seen much of it, but I didn't see anything about the white supremacy. But to be honest, it was kind of Trump-esque. You know, it was
exactly
like,
what you would expect.
yeah, it was typical
No
Trump.
respect for the other speaker, no respect
No,
for the moderator, no respect for
no.
anything except himself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and this is the point, isn't it? That was the same last time, but the last time it was almost quite refreshing. And I wonder whether now are people getting a bit tired of it, or do they still really like it? You know, do they still really like the kind of the way he is and the way he speaks? And we're yet to find out. Polls don't mean anything, as we know. But I have to say, the bookies tend to get things pretty accurately calculated on the whole. So if they're saying 78%, then, you know, and as I say, that number might have changed, but I think it was as high as that at one point. But if they're saying he's got a 78% chance of winning, then you would suspect that could have an impact on the decisions with the market. And also, you know, we were talking a few weeks ago, is Biden good for the market or is Biden bad for the market? Well, Donald Trump has been good for the market. So, and he's been extremely good for the market. So I would probably plump at the idea that at very best Biden may have this this kind of initial reaction with the market where it's a bit tepid.
You can record the pound as break even, mate.
Okay, all right. So it was a sell. All right, we're going to do these properly later on in the journal. Now, Jeff and I are going to start doing the coaching during the US session, where we talk to somebody and talk about their trading, look through their journal and everything else. And John has agreed to do this, but I suspect we probably need just to start with. But I suspect we probably need maybe the end of this month. We should do it, mate. Maybe should we do it the last Thursday of the month? Because that way we'll have journals to go through.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. And we can break down or you know, the pound trader and things like that. So we'll see what's happening on the last Thursday of the month to see if we look through our data. Great. So yeah, think of let's go with that then, John. So keep your journal up to date, and we'll do the last Thursday of this month, and we'll do a coaching session with you in the US session. And then whoever's wants to come up, then awesome, mate. Awesome. And that's going to be important. And what we'll do is we'll get your journal the week before, or maybe the on the week or something like that, on the Monday, just so we can look through it and properly do some analysis for you. So we will be doing that in the US session, and we'll just continue to update these journals and make sure. Now I've added a few more columns as well, mate. So I will show you those when we get to the US session, and it's also another area for trade management as well. So that should encourage those things. Now, the Swissy, we were talking about the Swissy. So the Swissy, we know with the Swissy that there are a few things that suggest Swissy weakness, and there's quite a few things, if you like, that suggest Swissy weakness. The first thing is the COT report. The COT report suggests that the commercials are fairly heavily short on the Swissy. Now that's not enough to go on in itself. That doesn't mean it's going to go short tomorrow or today or in the next 3 weeks. It just means that the commercials, for whatever reason, and that's the thing, they are not speculators. So the commercials are not the people that are saying it's going in this direction, because if we look on the other side of the coin, the speculators are actually long Swissy, or certainly they're not short. You know, it's the commercials that are short. So the commercials are short on Swissy, and they're the big guns, they're the big players. And then we also, if we look at the Swiss National Bank's report, which we don't necessarily have to do here, but let me just show you this. This is the Swiss National Bank's kind of own report on their own data. So let me see. When was it? Might have been this one. I have to trawl through all these and no, it wasn't that one. Maybe it was a press release. That's scheduled, so it might have been speeches. Let's have a look at this one. It wasn't this one because that would have been a couple of days ago, wouldn't it? But it might still mention it in here. Right, let's see what they're saying. Money policy decision of the 24th. That might have it. So it's keeping the S&B policy rate and interest slight deposits at minus 0.75 in the view of the fact that the Swiss franc is still, there you go. This in itself will tell us enough. In view of the fact that the Swiss franc is still highly valued, the S&B remains willing to intervene more strongly in the foreign exchange market while taking an overall exchange rate situation into consideration. The S&B continues to supply the banking system with generous amounts of liquidity via the S&B COVID-19 refinancing facility. It is also active on the repo market as needed. So, you could honestly read through this whole thing, read right the way down it, and you will get the flavor that they are not comfortable with the value of the Swiss franc. And we know that the people that really kind of run the country are the national banks. We don't need to go too much further than reading a national bank's statement on how it feels about the value of its currency to know what the next possible move is going to be. Now, you'd have to compare it with something else, but that is I think that's a fairly strong message that they are not comfortable. Whether they're going to do anything or whether the Swiss franc does its own job because it devalues it in another way, we don't know. But we certainly know that they're not comfortable. Now, if they're not comfortable, then we have to ask, well, what would be their catalyst for potential money supply? Bless you, mate.
I couldn't find the bloody microphone.
What would be the catalyst to get them through? And we have to start looking through the numbers. Here's the Swissy numbers here. CPI. So CPI is an inflation gauge. Now, they've got no inflation whatsoever. And when you are reducing your monetary situation, when you're reducing the value by tampering with interest rates, then it tends to give you inflation. Now that's just not happening. And you've also got numbers, retail sales coming in not only weaker than expected, but much weaker than last time. I don't know what it is generally. You'd have to check on that. Well, I mean, they're not awful. They're not awful, but they are shrinking. It's only one number, but we want to be watching the retail. We want to be watching the Swiss situation and the general health of the Swiss economy to kind of make choices, and then we can flip to the chart. What's the chart saying? Is the chart in agreement with what the analysis of the Swiss National Bank is suggesting? Well, we saw the dollar Swiss, sorry, the CAD Swiss. Let's have a look at the dollar Swiss. On a day-by-day basis, so on a daily chart, looks like it's created a higher high. It looks like it's through an area, and it looks like it's created a higher high. So this is just some of the routes that I would take. Sorry, this is just some of the routes that I would take to try and get a directional bias. No, the policy doesn't tell you that you're going to be avoiding the Swissy. The policy would tell you. The policy tells you that that they are keen to make sure that the Swissy doesn't overvalue. So the reverse of that is that they would want the Swissy, devalued. They don't want it to be where it is right now. They want it cheaper. So then you have to sort of think, well, what will drive that decision? And it'll be data points. Can Swiss long just won't trigger? Well, it might do eventually, but yeah, stick with it, Helen. I still think that's got some validity. So the data points maybe aren't stacking up enough just yet.
CAD Swiss.
You've got an order, haven't you?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, maybe Helen's got
I'm looking for one.
Okay. So Jeff's looking for the order on the CAD Swiss to express that potential. But we don't necessarily have the catalyst yet because the data hasn't stacked up maybe enough, possibly.
I'd like to have found one yesterday morning. That would have been good.
Yeah, absolutely. It was pretty good value yesterday. But this is making a higher high anyway. Sorry, a higher low here. Now, that higher low might even come down as low as the trend line. So, and still be a higher low. because as long as it's higher than this point here, it's still a higher low. So the dollar Swiss looks like it could still continue higher. The Aussie Swiss actually doesn't look as good, does it? This actually looks like a lower high here. So the Aussie looking potentially a little bit negative against the Swissy. So I wouldn't really want to be trading that one. CAD Swiss.
While you're there, mate.
Yeah.
There's a question on Aussie Swiss from Sino, I think it was. So my analysis on Aussie Swiss is that it's got to come down to go up. And if we have a look at the 4-hour chart, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Pardon me. There is every reason to think that we've missed the entry if we wanted to go long here, because the target's obviously that trend line that you see. And on the hourly chart, if you want to trade it up to there, as I say, you probably missed the boat because we've already had a retracement and now we're getting a new high. But if we now go to the hourly chart, same thing. There's no entry here for us. So I've got to be saying that I would have to let that go up to that trend line and then start looking for a short. So that's my analysis on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you know, there's but it has got problems. Nothing's really shaping up as yet. In actual fact, mate, I'll pass to you because there are a few questions about some Swissy pairs that
yep, you've got to fly as well.
And I need to go and do a quick school run. So I might well be back by the end of the show, guys. But my daughter's struggling to get into school, so they've suggested that I drop her off. So I'm going to go and see if I can prise her fingers away from the door as she's meant to go in. So if I'm not back, guys, I'll see you in the 1:30 show. For anybody who's not in that, I will see you in the US show if you're in that. But if not, then have a great weekend, and I'll see you back on Monday. All right. See you soon, guys.
Right, bud. Good luck.
Thank you, mate. I'll leave myself running.
Okay. Running it shall be. We need a camera. We need a control panel. And there we go. Happy days. All right. So just further to the Swissy and the questions before we go any further. It was Aussie Swiss, dollar Swiss, and Euro Yen, I think. So let me just continue with Aussie Swiss. As you can very clearly see, we are in an uptrend on the smaller timeframes and potentially at a fairly strong resistance level, and the stronger one coming up, as Ash pointed out, in that trend line, which is probably in that vicinity. But the other thing you need to look at is the range that we are in on the bigger timeframes. I'll use the daily, it's probably far clearer. And what I see there is that we've come once again off the bottom. So in my initial analysis, which is on the daily chart, I think we've got to come back to go to there. So there's a potential entry down here somewhere as a higher low, because off the bottom of a range, we're looking for a higher low all the time. And short term, I'd be willing to take that. If you wanted to get long now, I think you've missed the boat, as I said, and you would probably have to wait to there and then look for an intraday short or a short-term short to allow for that higher low to form. So again, just going back through those charts, I think you've got to let this go to here, then come back and look for the higher low in that vicinity to trade long if you wish, taking profit at that trend line. So that would be Aussie Swiss. The hourly chart was the first question, hourly and 4 hourly, and it's the same result. You know, it's too far gone to trade. If you're thinking of trading it short, looking for a daily pivot test, don't forget you've got the monthly pivot in the way. And I think it's just a tough assignment, either going long or short, no matter what. So I'd be giving that one a miss, frankly. Dollar Swiss, I missed this one a little bit when Ash was talking about it. But again, looking at the bigger picture, you can, well, clearly see that we've had a breakdown of this range and now a retest of this range up till yesterday, which of course was the end of the month. Weekly chart is showing that pretty clearly, how we came back and tested, or retested, if you like, the broken range, which is that rectangle. And from here, we're now getting a seller bar that suggests to me, at least in the formation currently, suggests to me that they probably don't want to drive it too far below that level there. Is there a pivot there as well? No. That's a bit of a shame. But you can see the level that we're currently at, where it has acted as resistance in the past couple of months, and it also acted as support back in March. So I would be thinking medium term that we're coming back into the range, and depending on how that candle were to close, there may even be an entry there with a stop loss below it. That's, of course, next week I'm talking about. When you look at the daily chart, and we go a little bit wider, you can see what's begun here, or potentially begun here. We've come off the base, we've broken out of the range, this range here, and now we've come back and we're testing the top of that range. So where we were testing the bottom of this range, we're now testing or retesting the top of this range, having broken out of it. That candle there is absolutely no help to anybody. It being a spinning top, it doesn't give us any directional bias in any way, shape or form, because it's saying it doesn't want to go above the weekly pivot, but then again, it doesn't want to go below these lows either, or below these highs either. So yeah, it looked really, really tricky and tough to call. That's the daily chart. So, you know, in my mind's eye, I'm thinking we're going back here. But there's no proof here of that, or there's no setup to suggest that that's going to be the case anytime soon anyway. And then you have a look at the 4-hour charts, and you've got a clear break of the daily pivot. If this were to be a decisive bar that gave you an engulfing bar, or even back to the weekly pivot, I would then start to think, if we're going anywhere, and price comes back to here, then we're going to the monthly pivot. Monthly pivot's not yet a day old, of course. So how much validity is there in the monthly pivot? Yeah, good question. Really good question. I find this a very, very difficult chart to read. And I'm always going to go back and have a look at what the dollar's doing against everything else. And the dollar seems to have a little bit more downside left in it before it reaches, let me go to that chart, if you like. I'll drag that onto the screen. It may or may not have a little bit more downside. Is the trend line the place that we want to go? And I think probably it is, because this level here would coincide and give us a confluence in that vicinity at 93.57, and we're at 93.75. So maybe not too far to go, but I think I'd be short term or intraday thinking the dollar's going down to here. And for that reason, that gives me a bias short on this one intraday. So I think, you know, if this 4-hour candle in an hour and a half was to close above the daily pivot, I think I'd be happy to place an order short underneath that, take profit here at the monthly pivot. And if it were to go further, then you get some bonus. If not, then as long as you're safe in the market, it doesn't really matter. But that's kind of where I'm at on that one. The hourly chart's just giving me probably the opposite of that. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, maybe. Outside of there, no, longer the stronger. I think go with what I've said before. If that is a decisive bar and closes above the daily pivot, I think the trade is short underneath there. But got to take profit and get yourself safe before the monthly pivot and that low, of course. And the other one was Euro Yen. Euro Yen, yeah, I can't remember the bigger picture on this one. Oh, there it is. That's pretty clear, isn't it? Okay, so those of you who can't see that, there is a very clear indication to me that this breakout of this trend line, and probably even this level was false. We've got above it, we've come back underneath it, and now we're retesting it. So with 61 hours and 24 minutes left in this candle, yeah, I won't go any further than that, but you can see where I'm coming from. I think you can see where I'm coming from. Interestingly, there is a clear head and shoulders here. Shoulder, head, shoulder. Neckline hasn't been retested. So your neckline's here. No retest. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'm kind of thinking we're going here, guys. In fact, I'm starting to get interested in that. Let me get rid of all those lines. Sorry, you've tweaked my interest now. I'll have to analyze this a little deeper. Get rid of these. Oh, you sod. And finally that one. Okay, so on this, the 4-hour chart, what do we see? We see a base. We see a left shoulder. Do we see a right shoulder? I think we probably do. We've got every reason to think that we do. What else have we got coming across here? Only a break of the daily pivot and potentially a retest of the daily pivot. So what I'd like to see here is this candle in the next hour and 22 minutes versus 16 hours or 61 hours. So we only get an opportunity on this one first, right? I'd like to see this close below the daily pivot. If that were the case, I think there is a potential it's not a very good one, though. So what I'm thinking is close down here. We can place an order long above this bar, but you've got a very tight first take profit. If you're willing to trade through that trend line, then your TP1 probably needs to be there at that level. So it's pretty darn tight. Let me see. If you were to put 30 pips of risk into the market and you went immediately there, you've only got about 6 or 7 pips before you hit the trend line and about 13 or 12 or 13 before you hit the resistance level. Maybe there's something better for us on the hourly chart. Not really. I'm trying, but I can't see anything. Not that I trade anyway. It's probably something on some other strategy that you trade, but I'm sorry, I can't see an entry. Not there. 4-hour maybe. So watch that candle, but be prepared to take profit very early. Any close below the daily pivot would do here, I think. So there you go. They're the 3 that we need analysed. And I haven't said g'day to everyone. I'll do that now. And sorry for ignoring you. G'day, Swee. Hi, SF. Hi, John. Hi, PL. Sino, we've spoken a bit about yours. Hello, John again. Different John. Hi, Shukri, LT, Alan, Brian. Oh, my goodness. Crystal, hi. Did I miss anything? Did you miss anything? Nah. Going to be a rough ride this month. What, John? Why do you say this? rough rides are always good fun. TD still might get back in. TD, Trump Donald, must be. My Angel James inserted. Sorry, guys, I'm just catching up on all of this and see if I missed anything. Yeah, my day off, Helen. We have Ash and I share every second Wednesday. We have off. That may change because we've had a guest presenter in all of the Wednesdays, and that's been Chloe in the UK session. But she is now on maternity leave, pretty much. So yeah, that won't be happening for the foreseeable future. The policy tells us we should avoid trading the Swiss. I think Ash covered that. CAD Swiss long just won't trigger. I haven't got an order CAD Swiss. Ash was short copper and long silver. I better not answer that because I don't know. I know he was short copper, but I've got no idea on silver. Good luck, Ash. I'm thinking on short yen, short euro yen, Aussie Swiss, but long dollar Swissy. I've probably not given you much help then, so I know. CAD yen broken range. In politics, not trading. Okay, righto. CAD. I'll share the CAD yen thing, guys. Those of you who were trading CAD yen with me this morning in my TTR session, as I said from the top of the show, I took an early TP1 at 79.42, and the reason I took an early TP1 at 79.42 was because. Where's our first take profit? Our first take profit is at 79.50, which is there. Now, I was actually in front of the charts when all this was happening, and I kept watching this candle, and it's at DR1, don't forget. And it refused to go above 74. Sorry, 79.44. And when that happens and I miss TP1 and I see that it's struggling and unlikely to go through there because we are at a resistance level, then I immediately take TP1, which is exactly what I did. I either do that or I just move my stops to entry. But what I did this time was take TP1 and move my stops, the equivalent, and took half off the table rather than the third, and move my stops the equivalent of TP1 below entry. So exactly the same formula that I use with the 30-minute trades. So that's where I sit at the moment. And as I said, the reason for that is it just would not go through that level and give us our TP1. So as soon as that happens, and if I miss TP1 by, anything 5 pips and under or something, then that's what I will do. Because I get the shits, frankly, because it either means that my analysis was wrong, or I've just got my TP in the wrong place, or I've entered the market at the wrong time. So I'm now safe in the market. I'm not sure how to advise you if you haven't done that exact thing. If I'm you, then I just close the trade or move my stop to entry, which is like 1 pip away or something, because you don't want to lose on this trade. There will be potentially another opportunity to get into it. And don't forget, you've got an untested daily pivot here as well. That's why we needed TP1, because we do have that untested daily pivot, which is below our stop loss. So it's most important that you cover yourself in that situation. Okay. John, awesome, mate. Awesome. That's CAD yen. Yep. So bias for dollar Swiss is short, Aussie Swiss is long, euro yen is long. I'm not sure I said I had a bias on dollar Swissy. I think, in fact, on dollar Swissy, I don't know what to do until this candle closes. When this candle closes, then I do know what to do. Because if in an hour and 14 minutes it closed as it is now, I would place an order underneath it, stop loss above it, maybe a stop loss above that candle, and take profit just before the monthly pivot and get safe in the market, because the potential here is that it's going to bounce and go long. If that's not the case, then you've got a chance of the bigger picture playing out, which is coming back into the range. And well, that's not really the bigger picture. The bigger picture is, for me, that we come back inside that range. But it's not crystal clear by any stretch. So my directional bias short term will be dependent exactly on what that candle does. If we're to close up here, then that changes very, very quickly. But if it closes here, then short-term bias is short to the monthly pivot, get half off the table, get safe, and throw caution to, well, throw your fate to the trading gods, because I don't know. I really don't know what happens next. And sorry, I'm going over this again, but I just want to get it clear. If I do have a bias, it's probably only short term. And on Aussie Swiss, I think the bias is short term, two things: long to get short, but only back to the pivots and a higher low, then medium term long. So, you know, I'm neither nor. I want to see what happens. Long to here, short to here, long to here. So, you know, it's not crystal clear. And Euro Yen, if it'll change charts, something's wrong. There we go. Euro Yen, as I said before, there's no reward available here to us. Depends on where this candle closes. Again, if it's below the daily pivot, I think there's short-term long here. But where does it go to? Probably same thing, monthly pivot. So it's pretty much the same thing upside down, isn't it? But if this is broken and retested, then you've got to, well, sorry, I've got to become a bull very, very quickly on Euro Yen. But we're at crucial levels, I think, Sino, is what I'm trying to say. We need to wait until the picture unfolds a little bit as to where we really want to go. Okay, that's, I think gets me up to date. Yep. Let me have a look at CAD Swiss. Helen, you're talking about CAD Swiss, and my bias coming into the week was CAD Swiss long, as you guys may well be aware. Sadly, and I did say at the time, we may get a better price on CAD Swiss. And holy dooly, did we get a better price on CAD Swiss? Did I trade it? No, wasn't in front of the charts yesterday, apart from just in the morning. And I couldn't see an entry, but wow, that looks pretty neat, eh? Then you've come up with a double cross on the weekly pivot at the top of the range. Wow. Would I have taken that trade? Maybe. Maybe, if I was in front of the charts. Glad I didn't at this point, but monthly pivot's an issue. I probably would, actually. I actually don't mind it now. But I think I'll wait till tomorrow and see how that looks. So I based my analysis on this bar, really, that came from below the range, took us to the top of the range, and then we had a blowout. And I really thought that follow through was the potential for this to go longer, but it didn't. And bang, straight back to where it came from, and then bang, straight back to where that came from with a little bit of interest. Crazy stuff. Yeah, look, I think it's tricky. I think it's tricky trying to get the right entry. I do see the double cross on the 4-hour chart. Bang, bang, across the weekly pivot. But look what's happened since. Not a lot. Still above the weekly pivot. Untested daily pivot. I'm not trading that. I'm just not trading that. No. Righto, what am I looking to trade? Aussie CAD, CAD Swiss, CAD Yen. They were the three on my watch list this morning, but I'm not trading CAD Swiss. Aussie CAD, let's have a look at that. Now, the reason I wanted to trade Aussie CAD, well, I didn't want to trade it. I wanted to have a good look at it because we are back inside this range, right? Are we ever? And don't forget that my bias, well, you probably don't even remember, so you probably have forgotten. My bias coming into the week was absolutely bearish based on these three bars here. Three black crows, they're called. We've seen them before, not as decisive or as big as this, right? So this has happened a bit. In fact, 5 selling days in a row took us to the bottom of the range for the first time. Then another 3 didn't take us to the bottom of the range, but these 3 certainly did, and through it. And because that was such a decisive breakout, I felt that that was, again, the precursor of what was to come. It may yet be, and as I said to the group this morning, this bar is very interesting. If it did have a white body to it, I would most certainly be trading that now. I'd be trading that short. But it doesn't really go with my MO, which is, of course, to trade the range. And if I'm trading the range here, I'm waiting on a retest of the trend line that's been broken and rebroken. And that then gives me a false break. Are you getting the clear picture that there's not a clear picture? Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. Everything I look at is just not crystal clear. But one thing is crystal clear, and that is that my bias remains with these 3 bars until this high is taken out. So I'm looking for an opportunity to trade this short, to be honest. And as I say, if that candle had a white body, I'd be all over it. But it hasn't, so I'll wait. Maybe we go to the top here, and then I get a lower high. That's probably the best case scenario. And if that does happen, then yeah, I'll be all over that like a shark on a mackerel. So that's Aussie CAD, and that's further. That was the first thing I looked at this week, actually, Aussie CAD, based on those 3. CAD Swiss was the next. Pound Kiwi was the next. Wasn't looking at that this morning, but I have covered the other 2, CAD Swiss and CAD Yen. So let's go and have a look at Pound Kiwi. Pound Kiwi, for the longest time, we've been waiting to get back into this trade as well. Now, this trade, we want to have a look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture here, let's go even bigger, is still alive. It's still awake until these lows are taken out and we start heading in the opposite direction. I'm still looking for longs here, and I've still got this target in mind. So what am I waiting for, does everyone say? Well, to be frank, on the monthly chart, now that we've got a candle, I could actually trade that bar. Let me decide whether that's worth it. I think it's probably about 3 to 1 available or something like that, because I did have a look at this at some stage. So we've got not even. We've got 926 pips. Let's say we take 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 months for this to pan out. That takes us probably to about there. If you think I'm crazy, 9 months. Where are we? We're in the 10th month. So that's 6. Let's say it takes us. Let's say it takes us. What's that? That's going to be the 7th. So it's going to be 9 months. What's that going to be? That's going to be the new year. Happy New Year, everyone. We just hit 22 or 2.2. Why not? Happy New Year there. So 2.2 gives us 900, what did I say, 920 odd to get 2,000. So 2 to 1. Do I really want to take that? No, it's not good enough on a monthly chart. Keeping your funds tied up for that long is just not worth it. So I've got to look for something better. Weekly chart, maybe if that pulls back. Daily chart, maybe if we get off the weekly pivot. I don't think I'd want to go any smaller than 4 hour, frankly. So yeah, I'm still waiting for. There's a possibility. We could play a false break here. So you see, we've got 2 pivots here now. Price up to here, comes back, retests the confluence area, then we can go long. Why? Because we've had a false break of support. If it came down to the weekly pivot, better still. But that would be enough. So that's all I'm waiting for on pound Kiwi at the moment. The last of them was Kiwi CAD. Kiwi CAD, which I've got somewhere. How'd you go, mate?
Oh, clockwork. I didn't give a chance to think. I talked all the way there, and I went, right, bye, darling, and just left.
There you go.
No chance for grabbing onto my legs.
Psychology, see, works every time.
All about
that. Okay, Kiwi CAD. A bit messy there now on the top of that range, but the monthly looks okay, and so does that bar. And again, similar to what I just described on pound Kiwi. Let me have a look. This is probably better, actually. And I'm not trying to convince you guys that the monthly chart's worth trading, but if that were to fall out of the sky, there's about 4 to 1 available. If it went straight down, never does, right? So let's take a look at that and see what's potentially available. Let's say it took, what's the fastest it's gone down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. So 6 months takes us to, we're April. So in there somewhere. That would give us 1,000 pips. What was the risk? 200 and something. So 4.5 to 1. It's starting to get a little bit more like it. Am I convinced that can happen? Why not? Although, oh yeah. Yeah, I would find it hard to go through that level. So 240 gets us 680. It's not worth it. It's only 2.5 to 1, and you're going to keep your money tied up for a long time. No. So again, that's a no. So we've got to creep down the time frames one more time. I still like it. We've come back inside here. Weekly charts would be interesting if that closed as a bullish bar. The daily charts, what can I see? Not much. No, I've got nothing. If that was a white bar and it had a body below the weekly pivot, then I'd be interested, but I'm not. 4-hourly chart. At least we've got a chance there, and the chance will come with there. So what we need to see, as always, break resistance, find resistance, come back underneath it, and come back underneath the three stooges here. All 3 pivots very close together. Get back underneath them, retest the confluence, then you can go short. But I don't see any other way at the moment. So, mate, I think I've just about exhausted what I think is even possible in the next little bit. We're out of the pound trade. I've updated the CAD yen for my group. Euro pound, we're still in. You guys should still be in euro pound. Where's that chart? And
Short on that, mate?
Sorry, mate.
Short euro pound?
Yep.
Brilliant.
I can't find it. What chart am I on?
Yeah, there was some. There was a little report overnight, and I wouldn't mind getting short euro pound. Actually, a little report overnight about the fact that there could be some movement on the fishing rights. Yeah, well, it was pretty fast, and I was in and out when I was leaving, but you just got to leave, right?
The what?
Report overnight about the UK government maybe pushing back, giving a bit of ground on the fisheries, which is one of the biggest arguments about fisheries. So they were talking about maybe having a transition period before they decide on quotas for the fishing rights in the UK waters. And it has been a sticking point. So if they can get through that, then there may well be some movement, and we might well see something that could promote some buying in the pound in the coming days. The issue is some of the other problems that are really mounting for the UK. The fact that there are also reports of the financial sector just migrating away from the UK just before Brexit, or maybe during the situation, and it's trillions. They're talking about trillions of pounds leaving the UK. So if they don't, they just cannot not get a deal. It would just be suicide. It really would be suicide, mate, at this particular point. And in some respects, maybe the pandemic has played into the EU's hands, with these negotiations, because there's a $30 billion pound shortfall that the UK which has just gone. And I don't think they could afford to lose all of because the financial industry, the UK is the bank of the world. So if the financial industry was to decide to migrate out, and already some of them have, then I think the UK could be in real problems. And the good thing is, if they do have that transition period, and I suspect the EU would probably take it on as well, because if they have a transition period for 3 years, that will almost complete Boris Johnson's cycle in government. And if a Labour government came in, I think that particular deal would be renegotiated again, with even more favourably potentially for the EU. So they might play this one tactically and think about the longer term view on it.
What you're saying is pretty much exactly what I've just said on, I don't know, half a dozen charts that I just looked at. I don't see anything that's crystal clear right now.
Yeah.
It's very smoky. It's very hazy on the chart.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think it's because it's another one of those transition points that we're in, where because there's nothing certain. Even the move to the upside that we saw in equities yesterday was on the potential for there being a deal with government. But you still have to question why the Democrats would bother. Why would they pass this bill before the election and give Donald Trump any kind of ammunition to see over, be the president while we continue to get this equity push? I think it's much more damaging for Donald Trump if there is a bit of downward movement in the stock market. So I'm not sure whether they may still play that politically. Obviously because it's the Republicans that have given ground on it, on trying to get this deal through, and that would suggest that the timing really right now is for the Democrats to get what they want, and if they don't get what they want, then exactly what they want, then I wonder whether they would bother. I wonder whether they would just play it politically and say, okay, fine, we'll wait until after the election, because we'll have the cards then if we win, and I think that they are expecting to win. So speculation is really causing this market to be in a bit of a hiatus, and I just think that that's where we are. I wouldn't be surprised if we just bash our heads off some tight ranges and go back to the low of the range and possibly pick back up again right the way up until 3 o'clock and possibly beyond, depending on when we get the announcement of whether that stimulus package is going to be in play. But I'll tell you something: if the stimulus package doesn't go through today, then I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a movement in the stock market which completely reverses what we've seen for the last couple of days, and we head right back to the lows that we hit originally a few days ago. So it is really all about that stimulus package. If they get it, then we could be getting back to the highs. I don't think we'd go beyond, but we could be getting back to the highs. So we're really waiting on that, and I think it puts all traders on a hiatus call just to wait and see what happens. And if you're in trades right now, and you've got a decent level buy zone or sell zone, if you can hold on and see whether that news helps you out, keep the stops where in a sensible place. But if you can hold on, the stimulus package, all the announcements help you out, the trades could really pick off from this particular point. But if you haven't got a particularly good entry and you're in the middle of a range, you might consider taking profit if you're in profit, or at least taking enough off the table to get stops at a sensible level. So I think it could be a tactical play with trades right now. And if you're not in a trade, then it might just be worth waiting until we get the announcement later on.
Well, look at that. The old way of trading this, risk of 20 pips, 2.5 to 1 at the moment. Interesting. That's the old way
as well, mate. Yeah,
Pardon?
We can log that as well if you want in the journal and see which one actually comes out on top.
Well, that's the whole idea. You've got to compare the whole raft of them, over a period of time, and whichever one works longest term the best, then that's the one you go with.
Do we need to?
You can also adopt a principle of trading it both ways. Yeah, you
could get taken in both ways, then, couldn't you? Wouldn't you?
No, you shouldn't, because your entry is still going to be the same. Well, that's not true, actually. We were trading it with 5 pips below, or 10 pips below and 15 pips above, rather than trading the bars. So you couldn't be taken into both, shouldn't we? No.
Well, in that case, mate, let's do it. I mean, the journal will tell us everything that we need to know about this, won't it?
Man, you know how long it takes me to place that trade now? If I add 2 more to it, my God. Especially if you've got candles like today.
Well, you don't have to place.
Hey?
You only have to place one of the lot, and then you just give me the parameters of what they would have been with the others, because we just want to compare the numbers, really, don't we?
Yes, that's true. All right, yeah, okay. Next week.
You could write it all down before, maybe in Skype, and then I'll just quite happily update the journal for you.
You're making me work, mate. This is all about my relaxation time.
Yeah, I am loading it on a bit at the minute.
Anyway.
All right, mate. Well, I think we're pretty much there, aren't we? Don't see UK government seeks to avoid national lockdown. Just getting to some of the headlines. UK seeks to move on early COVID-19. A lot about the UK there. Nothing else really there, mate. We're waiting on 3 o'clock. So let's call it for this week on the UK session.
Just before you go, Helen's got a question for you. But
okay.
Also, Sino and Ash is the head and shoulders man. But if I'm looking at this chart, this is Kiwi CAD. I see what you're seeing. I see the head and I see the shoulders. And Ash trades these in places that I don't even look at them. and I'm not a massive. Well, I am actually. If I see Head and Shoulders at the top, then I'll trade it. I'll look to trade it. But if I see it as a lower high, it's not necessarily what I want to trade. I like to see this. If I could cut that out and put it up there, then I'm a happy chappy. But I'm not so sure here.
Well, so we're seeing that as an inverted Head and Shoulders, are we?
No. Sino's seeing it as a Head and Shoulders forming, right?
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah, you like that, don't you? And I'm not convinced.
Do you know the way I'd play it? It's not finished yet, obviously. So you look at that left shoulder, and it's got quite a few more bars than the right shoulder currently. But the way I'd want to play this is if you put a trend line from the 17th of August as the low, and extrapolates to the right. Yeah. Then I'd want to see the right shoulder get through that trend line. If the right shoulder comes through that trend line, which you can see that it's starting to go up and up and up. So if we kind of like move along a little bit, then if price moves along and starts to hug that level, then as soon as it goes through that particular level, then you've got a trend line break and a right shoulder. That's the way I'd want to play the inverted Head and Shoulders there. Sorry, the Head and Shoulders pattern there.
Yeah, at the moment, I think this is in a buy zone. I'd be playing this long with the right candle here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ready yet. If we were to play this as a Head and Shoulders, it's absolutely not. It's nowhere near ready. Yeah, nowhere near ready. Ash traded silver short and went up, mate. Are you telling me that, Helen, or are you asking me that? Or are you talking to somebody else?
I don't know.
If DT has doubled, QAnon will release DT again. Not sure what that is.
You traded copper short. I didn't know you traded silver short. Did you trade silver short?
No, I didn't trade silver short. No. So that I presume that's just a statement that Helen traded silver shorts.
Are you still in copper short? And how did that go?
To you, ADH. To me, Ash. Copper. Yeah, we know. Do you know what? Copper. The issue with copper is that while we're in risk on, I'll talk about it more in the US show later on, mate. Because we took another one in the US show later yesterday. So I'm going to talk about copper in that particular show and see what happens. But with copper, it is not showing me signs that it's coming down yet, I've got to say. So we'll discuss the management on that one with a copper short, but stop should be tight on copper regardless, if we're in the short. But I'll discuss it in the US show because we are in that trade from the US show, and it's unlikely to go anywhere before that anyway. So we're okay with all that.
Alrighty, my guys who are in CAD Yen, you may get a second bite of the cherry here. I hope so.
In actual fact, one thing I would say is if anybody did take copper yesterday, then I would advise coming out at break even. If you get it, come out at break even or close to. If price comes back to the entry price, then close the trade. I'm going to explain why later on. But that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm just waiting for it to come back to nearer my entry, and I'm going to close that position. Ash, talk to your daughter why she didn't want to stay at kindy. Oh no, she's not. She's not at kindy. She's at school. She's at school. I know why she doesn't want to stay. Yeah, big school. Yeah, it's I think some of the issue is that she's been at home the whole time with me and my girlfriend, and we, for this whole period of COVID, we've been locked up, pretty much just the three of us. And I think it's just a bit of a culture shock, and she's finding it really noisy and she's just a bit overwhelmed by it. She'll get used to it. But It's not easy for her. Anyway, we digress. So another strategy went long and silver this morning, went well. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Okay, well that's always good to hear. And you know, if the dollar continues to weaken, then the commodity should do okay. I've got my doubts about too much more weakness with the dollar, and I am looking for a turnaround, but it doesn't look like it's happening just yet. So I'm just waiting on that, and hence why I want to come out of copper. So if anybody, as I say, anybody was in the copper trade yesterday, I'm going to be looking to come out at near break even.
So I think we've had the false break, mate. There it is there, same as we had before. So I think a weekly pivot test would be nice and juicy for a long, mate. Got to have a setup, but yeah, I'd like to see that. I think that would be quite okay.
Right, well, let's wrap it up for the week, mates. Let's wrap it up for the week.
Okay.
Markets are drifting higher, and I suspect they might continue to do so, but be careful, because if they're in a sell zone, they probably will reject that area initially. I see a pretty quiet market out there with not a lot to want to do. So let's hold fire.
Well, mate, my analysis has now got, I think, 9 pairs in it, and I'm still waiting for 8 of them to set up. So it could be a very busy US session.
Great stuff. All right, mate. Fantastic. We'll update the journal, update the watch list, and see where we're at. So for the rest of you, we will see you at 1:30 this afternoon UK time, and those of you in the US show we'll discuss that the copper trade there and update, as I say, update the journal, and everybody else we will see at 5 to 8 next Monday. Have a great weekend, guys. And stay safe in the markets. Be careful if you are trading today. Looks pretty choppy to me. And see you later, in a few hours, buddy. But for the rest of you, see you Monday, 5 to 8.